Welcome back to Occult Archives, where we kind of peek behind the scenes of those books in history everyone's always talking about, the ones that maybe spooked people out a little bit.
Right, right. Not your typical quiet library stuff. We're digging into the real deal mystical grimoires, those ancient texts that people swear have secrets hidden in them. Makes you wonder, what did the first folks to read these think?
Like, did they just drop the book and run?
Possibly, yeah.
Yeah.
But hey, that's why you have us. We're like your, I guess, your guides to this whole literary underworld.
Yeah. Guides with flashlights, hopefully. So, this time, for the deep dive, it's our 149th. By the way, we're going deep on Hermes Unveiled, the cosmic gospel of the Virgin of the World.
Ooh, now that's a title. Sounds like something you'd see on, I don't know, prog rock album cover.
Right. But honestly, the name's just the start. This thing's packed with ideas about, like, the whole universe, where we fit in, all that big picture stuff. That's what we're going to try to unpack today.
Our goal for you today is to make the Virgin of the World and all those little hermetic fragments around it make sense, sort of a cheat sheet for this influential work.
Yeah, so you grasp the important bits without getting totally lost, like in some ancient philosophical labyrinth.
Exactly, right?
So how are we tackling this? What sources have we got?
Well, we've got some really cool stuff to work with today. We're using excerpts from Anna Kingsford and Edward Maitland's translation of the Virgin of the World, and then we're going to bring in some bits and pieces of hermetic writings, stuff that was saved by scholars like Stobaeus, Cyril, and Suidas, like putting together a giant puzzle of ideas.
I love that, a puzzle of ideas. Now, whether you're already into Hermeticism or this is totally new territory, the goal is to make those key insights from these texts, really shine.
We want you to finish this and think, okay, I get why the Virgin of the World matters in Western mysticism.
All right, so one thing that jumps out right away is this whole idea of how Hermetic thought, as we see it in the perfect way and the Virgin of the World, it it kind of reappeared. It wasn't like stumbling on some dusty manuscript. It was more through this what they call intuitive perception, like remembering something deep down.
Yeah. The authors are saying they tapped into this ancient knowledge like it was always there waiting. And get this, they're claiming it happened altogether independently of extraneous sources of information.
Like they're saying, we didn't read this anywhere, it just came to us.
Exactly. And that feeds into a big part of Hermeticism, that inner wisdom thing, that maybe we have the answers inside ourselves already.
Oh, that's trippy. I like that. So this whole intuitive angle, it leads to a different way of seeing consciousness. Forget the mind-body separation, right? Hermetic thought's all about this monistic view.
Monistic meaning,
Yeah.
meaning they see reality as one basic thing. In this case, that thing is absolute consciousness, matter, like the stuff we see, touch. It's not separate. It's like a version, a mode of that underlying spirit.
Whoa. So like everything's conscious on some level.
That's the idea.
Yeah.
And by doing that, by making matter part of consciousness, they get around that whole dualism problem. You know, that mind-body split that's always been a philosophical headache. It's like, no, it's all connected. Plus, they have a different take on what unconsciousness is. Not like an empty room, but a dimmer light compared to a brighter one.
Okay, I'm starting to see how this all fits together.
That's all about connection. And speaking of connection, that leads us to another big idea, right? They say the essence of all is one. And from this oneness, you get this principle of correspondence. As above, so below. You've heard that one. Well, this is where it comes from.
That's like the law of the universe for Hermetists.
Yeah. Everything's mirrored, connected, from the cosmos to each of us, the universal to the personal. You, me, the world out there, our inner world, and even us and well, the divine, I guess.
So wait, so events that seem totally unrelated are actually linked.
That's what they're saying, like instruments in a cosmic orchestra. Understanding one thing can give you clues about everything else.
That's a lot to process, but in a good way.
It's deep stuff. And they even say an earthly man is a mortal god and the heavenly god is a mortal man. It's this back and forth connection. But important note, this isn't about everyone right now. It's talking about those with higher intelligence, folks who've developed their spiritual consciousness.
Right, like it's a potential we can unlock, not something everyone's born with.
Exactly. And they're careful about how they define divinity here so we don't get those cartoonish ideas of God. It's not the same as life or mind or even substance. Divinity is the cause of those things.
So like the source, not the things themselves.
Right. It's bigger than that. And they're really pushing this idea of looking inward. They literally say, God is not to be discerned in phenomena or with the outer eye. The quest must be made within oneself.
So looking out at the world won't get you there.
Nope. You got to cultivate that inner landscape. First be, then you can understand the divine.
Okay, I'm getting the sense that being is a big deal in all of this.
It's fundamental. And that inward journey is what they call gnosis. Not just book smarts, it's experiential knowledge. Knowing yourself, knowing God, knowing how they're the same at the core, like realizing you're part of something much, much bigger.
Deep stuff.
And get this, they compare the agnosticism of their time to spiritual immaturity. Basically saying that intellect without spiritual growth leaves you clueless about this deeper reality. True knowledge, gnosis, it bridges that gap between the head and the heart.
Head and heart, yeah, I can't dig that. So once you have that inner knowing, what then?
Well, then you start to see the importance of moral law, like deeply understand it. Gnosis reveals that good can't come from evil. In your actions, they have consequences that ripple out. Think of it like a cosmic karma system.
Whoa, cosmic karma. Sounds intense.
It is. And that's where they bring in Adraste, the Hermetic version of karma. She's like this cosmic accountant, making sure moral cause and effect play out. In Greek myth, she's Nemesis, the goddess of, well, payback, I guess. But also Hecate, who's connected to magic and crossroads. All about this unavoidable law where the patterns we make through what we think and do, they shape us.
Okay, so we're in this cosmic system, actions have consequences. How do we navigate that and reach what they call perfection?
Good question. Their answer is purity. But it's not just about what you do on the outside or the stuff you own. It's about pure consciousness. You got to be consciousness to truly perceive, to truly be human, to see God, as the Gospels might put it. And the purer that consciousness is, the clearer your understanding gets.
So like refining yourself from the inside out.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
And that purity, it's not just some passive state. It connects to actual power.
Mm-hmm.
The initiated hermetist, sometimes they call them a Magian, they can do some wild stuff, things that seem miraculous. They work on all these levels, physical, mental, moral, spiritual, all through their will. But the source of that will has got to be pure spirit, the divine within.
Now that's some real power.
It is. But how do you actually learn all this hermetic stuff? It's not just logic or the usual way we think of reasoning. They rely on intuition.
So like gut feelings.
Kind of, but deeper. Think of it as the soul's wisdom. It's direct line to truth because it's been through so much.
Like the soul's been around the block a few times.
Exactly. But they don't throw intellect out the window. It's got to be developed, refined, like a partner to intuition.
So balance is key.
Right. They actually say the man to its woman, which
Yeah.
is a little poetic, maybe a little sexist these days, but you get the idea. This perfected intuition-intellect combo, that's the key to real knowledge, even spiritual continuation.
Okay, that makes sense. Now, one thing people always talk about with Hermeticism is this whole rebirthing, transmigration, the soul living multiple lives, right?
Yeah, that's a big one. And they say it keeps going until you're spiritually regenerated enough to the point where your true self doesn't need a body anymore. Then you're free from this cycle of coming back to the material world.
Like graduating from physical existence?
You could say that. And the analogy they use is interesting, shedding skin, feathers, shells, even clothes. Just like the body gets rid of those outer layers, the soul sheds bodies throughout its journey.
So we go through bodies like outfits. That's a cool way to look at it.
Right. It's different from how other folks saw it, like Swedenborg. It shows how unique their Hermetic view is.
Definitely unique. So it's not just souls bouncing around randomly, is it?
Nope. They talk about spiritual gravity, where your spiritual density determines where you end up. Like the pull that got you into a body has to be, I don't know, exhausted before you can move past it.
Interesting. So what about the idea of forgiveness of sins? Where does that fit in?
They connect it to achieving regeneration. It's not a one-time thing, more like an ongoing process, maybe even across multiple lives, where you're essentially reborn of water and the spirit, purifying your soul and spirit, getting closer to the divine.
So it's not a checklist, more like an evolution.
Exactly. And one thing that makes Hermeticism kind of cool, compared to some other mystical traditions, they don't bash on nature or the body.
Yeah, no doom and gloom about being physical.
Right. They actually see the relationship between the sexes as a symbol of divine mysteries, even a crucial part of becoming spiritually complete.
That's a pretty different view than some other mystical traditions.
It is. They appreciate beauty, joy, all those good things. More like the ancient Greeks than some super serious Eastern philosophies. It's like mysticism doesn't have to be all about denying yourself. The Hermetist finds the divine in everything.
So let's talk about Hermes Trismegistus himself, the legend behind this whole tradition. They paint him as the ultimate cosmic thinker, the guy who not only understood the universe but actually made it happen.
Right. The ultimate insider, right? But he didn't reveal everything. He deliberately kept some knowledge hidden, like a puzzle for later generations to figure out. And when his time on Earth was up, he ascended to the stars, passing the torch to his son Tat and his student Asclepius.
So, like, he left us homework.
Basically.
Yeah.
And there's this part where Hermes is explaining to Tat why he can't reveal everything just yet, something about Tat being too young. But then Isis, who's a big deal in the version of the world, she claims she actually saw the creation process, all the hidden stuff.
Like, she got the behind-the-scenes tour.
Yeah. And she's the one who tells her son, Horos, about a lot of these mysteries. The text talks about nature itself coming into being at God's command as this feminine principle of, like, perfect beauty.
Wow. So nature is feminine in this system.
It is. And nature's not just sitting around either. She interacts with herself and creates invention, who gets a job of managing all the forms of creation, giving them their special qualities.
Nature's pretty productive.
Very productive. And to make sure the higher realms weren't just empty space, God filled them with spirits. He uses this sacred art, taking his own essence and mixing it with intellectual fire, other elements, using secret formulas. That's how the whole cosmos got its movement.
Secret formulas. That sounds intriguing.
Right. And from all that, this even more refined substance pops up self-consciousness. It's described as transparent, stable, not affected by heat or cold. And from this, God makes a whole bunch of souls, each with different levels of purity, but all sharing the same eternal essence.
So we're all connected on that soul level.
That's the idea. Now, things get a bit more emotional here. As these souls are about to get put into bodies, they start lamenting their upcoming imprisonment. They miss their celestial home, the purity of the ether, the starlight, and they're not thrilled about being stuck in a physical body that decays and changes.
Like, wait, we gotta go where?
Pretty much. They appeal to the Lord, who's sitting on his throne of truth. He decides that desire and necessity will be the forces governing these souls.
So free will, but with cosmic rules.
Yeah, something like that. The untainted souls stay in the celestial realms. Those with minor imperfections, they return to heaven once their bodies are done. But those with bigger issues, they get reborn as animals, beings without reason.
So your actions have consequences, even across lifetime.
Big time. And the Lord's clear about that. He says destiny isn't random, it's tied to your past choices. Future rebirths will depend on how you lived. The just. They get closer to the divine, maybe becoming rulers, philosophers, leaders. Even embody those noble qualities we see in nature, like the eagle's justice, the lion's strength, the dragon's longevity, the dolphin's compassion.
So we could come back as a dolphin. I'd be down with that.
Maybe. But it's not all cosmic decrees. There's this character named Momos who gives Hermes some, well, kind of cynical advice about managing humanity.
Yeah, what kind of advice?
He says put desire, hope, dread, and suffering into the mix. Keep them on their toes.
Sounds kind of manipulative.
Yeah, a bit. And Hermes actually agrees with him. He creates this mysterious instrument described as inflexible and inviolable to basically control everything from birth to death.
A cosmic control panel? That's a little scary.
A bit, yeah. It's tied to Adrestia, or Nemesis, that law of cause and effect we talked about before. So after all that, the souls are put into bodies. The Lord gathers the gods and tells them to play their roles in this cosmic play. The hidden unity of everything is revealed, the heavens are formed with all their intricate patterns, and the earth solidifies, full of all its riches.
So creation is in full swing.
It is. But these new souls and bodies, maybe they're still homesick for their divine origins, they start rebelling, causing wars and oppression. Even the elements themselves, fire, air, water, earth, they complain to God about how messed up humans are, polluting the world, disrespecting creation.
So even the planet's feeling it.
Yeah, it's a big mess. God, hearing the elements' plea, promises to send a pure being to judge it all. And later in the story, that's Osiris and Isis. They're sent to save humanity, stop wars, and establish laws and religious practices, including studying Hermes' writings.
So bringing order to the chaos.
Right. Isis also explains how the elements affect living beings, saying animals have natural likes and dislikes toward them. And she points out how the soul gets messed up when the body's sick or scared, showing how connected our physical and spiritual sides are.
Like a holistic view of health?
Exactly. And Horos, always the curious one, asks where souls go after death. Isis says they don't just dissolve back into the big spirit, but are sent to places that match their earthly experiences.
Like being released from prison into the right environment.
That's the analogy she uses. But here's a key point. Every human soul is immortal.
Wait, so everyone's immortal?
In a sense, yes. But the type and length of that immortality, they depend on how you lived, how developed your soul is.
So it's not a one-size-fits-all afterlife?
Nope. And that idea of God as both the one and the all, the source of everything, it keeps coming up throughout this whole thing. It's central.
That unity thing again?
It's everywhere.
Yeah.
In heaven, they see it as a manifestation of God regulating physical bodies, while God, who is also the soul and everything in the world, directs heaven itself. It's like this nested system of divine influence.
So heaven's not separate from the world?
Not at all. And within that system, God's influence flows out, creating individual beings. The types of beings are eternal, but specific individuals, not so much.
Okay, so what about us? Where do humans fit into this cosmic picture?
Humans are a big deal. They're called a great marvel, a bridge between the divine and the earthly. We've got that dual nature, the divine part with intelligence and piety, and the earthly part made of the elements.
Like we're the link between the two worlds.
Exactly. And they ask, why are humans here on Earth instead of just hanging out with God directly? The answer: to contemplate the second God, which is the visible universe, and to take care of Earth using our unique dual nature.
So we've got a job to do here.
A pretty important one. And get this, when we admire, adore, praise things, it actually makes heaven happy. They say the muses were sent to Earth to inspire hymns of praise.
So like good vibes are cosmically appreciated.
Yeah, but they also say that only people with purified intelligence can really see heaven clearly.
So we got to work on that inner clarity.
Definitely. And they outline a hierarchy. The master of eternity is the top dog, the first God. Then there's the world, the second divine manifestation. And then us, humans, the third. We get to govern the world, and the world serves us.
So we're in charge, but we're also part of this system.
Right. And God has two main reflections: the world and us. But while we have that divine part with soul, consciousness, mind, reason, we also have a mortal elemental part.
So we're complex beings.
Very much so. And they define religion as the law governing our dual nature, guiding us toward good, perfection. That's about resisting those earthly desires that distract us from the divine within.
Stay focused on what's truly important.
Exactly. But there's a warning, too. Those who don't cultivate their divine side, who live impiously, they can't go back to the celestial realms. They got to go through cycles of rebirth, penance, because they didn't live up to their potential.
So choices matter, big time.
They do. And there's this sad prediction about the decline of true philosophy, which they see as simple, pure adoration of God. It'll get lost in pointless arguments and intellectual showing off.
Like losing the heart of it.
Yeah, that's the worry. They also talk about hyle, which is Greek for first matter. Spirit exists alongside the universe, but not in the same way it's connected to God. God's unbegotten, no origin. But matter, nature, and mind, they can create, give birth.
So the power of creation is in those things.
It is. But matter, because it's so good at making stuff, it can also make bad stuff, evil. And someone might ask, why didn't God stop that? Well, they say God gave us feelings, knowledge, and intelligence to help us get past evil.
So we've got the tools to overcome it.
We do. Now, spirit, they say it's God's tool, the thing that governs and gives life. We understand God through intelligence, and the universe, that's like a physical, sense-based version of the divine.
Something we can actually perceive.
Exactly. They even describe the universe as a hollow sphere, invisible in itself. Its center, they call it Hades or hell, can't be seen from the outside. And within all that, ideas are the basic forms of this hidden reality.
So it's deeper than what we see.
Much deeper. They also talk about nourishment on different levels. The world feeds our bodies, spirit feeds our souls, and thought, a gift from heaven, feeds our intelligence. But not everyone can absorb that higher nourishment equally.
Like we have different capacities for that.
Right, and there are tons of gods, each with an intelligent part that's even clearer than the physical things we see. It's a whole spiritual web beyond our senses.
Whoa, a whole other level of reality.
Yeah, it's mind-blowing. They even name some specific celestial beings. Zeus is the head honcho of the heavens, light is the essence of the sun, Pantamorphos rules the fixed stars, fortune and destiny guide the planets, and ether's the medium connecting it all.
So like a cosmic who's who.
Exactly. But even with all these different beings and forces, everything comes down to unity. Any separation is just an illusion. It all comes from two things: primordial substance and God's will.
So it's all connected, all one.
That's the big picture. And they even admit that words can't really define God. Maybe calling God all, or even using the names of everything combined would be closer.
It's beyond our comprehension.
It is. They describe God as eternally creative, always generating and being impregnated by its own will. That's where the two sexes and everything come from.
So creation is an ongoing process.
Absolutely. And procreation is not just biology. It's a divine duty tied to love and joy. It's a sacred act.
Wow, so having kids is divinely ordained.
According to them, yes. And humans, they were made from both the perishable and the divine parts of the universe. That's why we have imperfections in our bodies and always need stuff and have desires.
Makes sense. So we're a mix of both.
We are. The gods, they got this eternal law of necessity governing them. But humans, we got reason and intelligence. We can overcome the bad stuff and have a chance at immortality through spiritual growth.
So we have more freedom than the gods.
In a way, yes. We're actually considered superior because of that dual nature. And there's this mutual love between good people and the gods.
That's a nice thought.
It is. And get this. They say humans can actually create gods that live in temples.
Wait, we can make gods.
That's the claim. Our devotion and creative acts can bring divine energy into the world, helping both us and those created gods. It's a two-way street.
That's a powerful idea.
It is. And they talk about making statues of gods, filling them with life and power through rituals and stuff. But then there's this sad bit about how piety will decline in Egypt, and the land will be full of tombs. It's like a symbol for spiritual death.
Losing that connection to the divine?
Exactly. They also say the divine in things like herbs and rocks comes from their natural properties. You need rituals, sacrifices, hymns, music to attract and keep those earthly gods around.
So it's about working with nature.
Yeah. And destiny. That's the force that makes everything happen. A second god created by the first. It's all about necessity and order, tools of God's will.
So free will, but within a bigger plan.
That's it. And you got to be in harmony with nature, which is the physical manifestation of God, before you can truly connect with the invisible God.
So respecting the environment is spiritually important.
Absolutely. And they talk about how all beings are connected, related. Humans are the culmination of that, both the child of earth and an older sibling to all other creatures.
Like we have a responsibility to everything else.
That's the message. People who've gone through spiritual regeneration, they don't eat blood because of some hidden law. But those more basic gods, the astral forces and stuff, they actually need it.
So different beings need different things.
Right. Will is just the result of thinking. And God's will's always good because it's aligned with divine knowledge.
So our thoughts matter.
Big time. And the world's inherently good because it gives us so much. God's everywhere, not just in heaven.
So we're surrounded by goodness.
We are. Then they talk about death. It's just the body breaking down. After that, your soul's judged. The good folks hang out with the divine. The not-so-good folks go through intense purification.
So there's accountability after death.
Big time. They say even stuff you did on earth gets punished after you die because God knows everything. But good people, those who are religious and pious, they get help from God through intelligence.
So being good has its perks.
Definitely. Now, God's consciousness, it's unchanging, eternal, all about truth. But the world, that's all about change, illusion.
So it's about seeing through the illusion to the truth.
Right. And they say there's no such thing as empty space. The universe is full of stuff. Just some of it's too subtle for us to see.
Makes sense. So what about religious images, statues, all that?
They say those are reflections of the physical world, worthy of respect and adoration. Like they're tapping into something real.
So they have a purpose.
They do. They also compare God to a musician keeping the world in harmony.
That's beautiful.
It is. And universal gnosis, the knowledge that gives life and lets us bless God, that's a gift, accessible through inner work.
So it's available to everyone.
It is. They say meditating on the universe and thanking the Creator is the truest religion.
Simple but profound.
Exactly. And understanding how the universe works actually makes you more religious because you see how amazing it all is.
It deepens your faith.
Yeah. They also talk about the soul's struggle inside the body, torn between wanting to rise up to the good and being pulled down by the bad stuff.
The classic inner battle.
Right. And everything's in motion, everything changes. Not all beings are strictly mortal or immortal. It's all fluid.
So there's a lot of nuance to existence.
Definitely. And here's a big one. Nothing physical is truly real. Nothing spiritual is fake.
So the spiritual is the foundation.
Exactly. Good comes from choice. Evil goes against your true will.
So we have the power to choose.
We do. Time is divine. Law is just something humans made up.
Eternal versus temporary.
Right. Heaven's unchanging, Earth's constantly changing.
Stability versus flux.
Providence is the order of things, necessity is how it works, and chance is just us not seeing the whole picture.
So there's a reason for everything.
There is. Evil's the fuel for the world. Time destroys us, but it's all part of the bigger picture.
It's a paradox.
It is. And be careful who you share these teachings with. The wrong people could misuse them.
So knowledge is power, and power needs responsibility.
Right. Divine substance is constantly flowing into the universe through unchanging forms, keeping everything going.
Like a cosmic energy source.
Exactly. God governs through necessity. Humans govern through justice, correcting the imbalances.
So we have a role to play in maintaining order.
We do. And we're subject to destiny, through nature and to justice, because of our mistakes.
So we're accountable for our actions.
Yeah. The past, present, and future, they're all connected, not separate.
Time is fluid, not linear.
Right. Matter is just the vessel for God's creativity.
Like a canvas.
Exactly. Spirit, reason, intelligence, perception, those are the keys to being.
The foundations of our existence.
Choosing evil makes you more controlled by destiny, but your intellect and reason, those stay free.
So we always have a choice.
We do. There's this hierarchy of being, from the ultimate being down to physical nature. It's all connected.
Like a cosmic ladder.
You could say that. And your soul can see beyond the physical to perceive true beauty.
True beauty, that's a powerful concept.
It is. The ultimate good is limitless, contains everything. It's the source of everything good.
That's where it all comes from.
Right. Think of creation as a pyramid. The creative word, the first power after God, is the
It's
cornerstone.
a foundation.
Exactly. And spirit, that's what keeps everything alive.
A life force.
Yeah. There's this primordial light and all-encompassing spirit, the most basic building blocks.
And what about the planets?
Oh yeah, the 7 planets they knew back then. Each one reflects qualities in us humans, like tears, laughter, anger, speech.
So the microcosm mirrors the macrocosm.
That's the whole idea.
So, wow, we've covered a lot of ground here. The virgin of the world and all these hermetic bits and pieces, they give us this whole different way of seeing reality, consciousness, the divine. It's ancient wisdom, but it still feels relevant.
Does, doesn't it? It's all about the unity of everything, the importance of inner knowledge and experience, that cosmic cause and effect, rebirth, and seeing nature at our place in it in a positive light.
It's a whole different worldview.
It is. And for you listening, hopefully this has given you a solid base for understanding Hermetic thought. We wanted to make it clear without getting too bogged down in the details.
Like a good overview.
Exactly. And here's something to think about. If we take seriously this idea of inner knowledge and the divine within, how could that change how you see yourself in the world? What ancient secrets might still be useful today?
That's a good question to ponder.
It is. Think about it. Maybe even check out the original texts if you're curious.
We always encourage further exploration.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the occult archives.
Until next time, keep seeking those hidden histories.